here at Meg Academy. And today I want to really focus all in on personnel management. We've been getting a lot of questions coming in on that particular topic. And, from when PPP funding ends, what do I do, to how should I manage my staff right now? So we brought in some guest panelists that are going to kind of weigh in on this topic. And we have Chris DeRosa out from California, who we're going to learn more about his practice and some of the things that he's doing. And then we also have Laura Shaver, and she's the practice administrator from a practice out in Virginia Beach. So with that said, we still have our 3-part Meg Academy series available, and I'm going to have Matthew put up the link to that. So you can still access that. I know a lot of you have been filling out the form for that and getting access to what's inside Meg Academy. So please continue to enjoy that piece. And with that said, I'd like to jump right in and get started. So Chris, can you introduce yourself and your practice and tell us a little bit about, what your practice looked like pre-COVID and what, has happened since we have kind of gone into this pandemic?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me as well. Our practice was, I have about a 4,200 square foot facility in El Segundo. I have 12 therapists on staff, 10 full-time and 2 being Troy and I that do part-time work as well. Prior to the pandemic, we were seeing roughly about 600 to 615 at our great visits per week. Gradually, what occurred then, obviously over the next week or week and a half, we went from almost down to 35% of our of our business. So I would say maybe 2 weeks, first week was 50%. Then the second week, it just progressively got more and more. So the second week was our cutting off point. So at about 200 and some odd.
Okay, and so right now you are
at what? Now, which is great. We've gotten back up to, now we're at 50%. So which is way better than 30 and 35% that we were seeing a few weeks ago. So we're
excellent.
A little happy about that.
So you're on the rise. Very good. And
it feels that way. Yes.
Okay, good. In terms of, how you've managed, have you done a lot of telehealth and have you supplemented?
Okay, so basically when this all happened, we kind of shifted gears a little bit in that we started telehealth immediately as we could. We did even pro bono for Medicare patients just to keep contact. My biggest focus was that unfortunately we were a gradual layoff, as we called it, or not really a furlough, whatever terms that they're using. Basically, it was a gradual. We were thinking we were going to gradually shut down. We just thought we were going to have to shut down. So we just did it gradually. We didn't we didn't do it right away. We just did it gradually and organically. So as the patient load decreases, our therapists went down.
Yeah.
And then and our admin staff as well. Then basically we shifted gears into. I was advising all of my therapists that what we will do is that they need to keep in contact with because their caseload went from 70 to 60 to 50 visits a week to nothing, that they need to try to keep in contact with them. So we did a lot of emailing, phone calls with our therapists to do that. And then in turn, asking them if that's something that they might want to, encourage them to do telehealth. And that's what we've been doing. And we have about 20 right now from the 3. If I did a visit count, we have about like maybe 7% of our, or 5% of our gross visits a week are telehealth visits right now.
Okay.
Not huge, but we're trying to increase that.
And how has your staff response been to like reduction in hours or furloughing? How have you handled your personnel to make sure they all know, like, hey, we're all still part of this team. We're just doing what we have to do to get through this.
And that's probably as a business owner, and we celebrated our 17th year right before this pandemic occurred, and no matter what, we always felt that we did lack in communication, and that kind of communication with our staff, where we trying to do, and it is a different kind of environment with, or the way people react with certain ways of speaking with them. But I tried to be due diligent on either emails, texting, phone calls. Basically, whatever mode would get the most response out of the bunch. And it's been a little challenging, to be perfectly honest with you, because I haven't found one mode of, whether it's speaking with someone, emailing, slacking them, or my whole group, that but that's the way that we try to keep communication with them, and saying, listen, this is what we need you to do. We need you to keep in contact with your patients, so that when we come back, we want everyone back. We're paying, this is our goal, is to have everyone back on staff again. I mean, this is not my way of going into my 18th year of business. So
yeah, and so if I'm hearing you, more communication has been what's been working better. And I know I want to mention this, because when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned that you're doing like kind of fun little, social media things. Can you share a little bit about how you're kind of keeping camaraderie together during this tough time?
We're trying to. I mean, this is all, again, like we said. I wish I was perfect, but far from it. And what we did is, during a hard time, I made a decision on, of increasing my social media presence, which I've been talking about for the last 5 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. And sometimes you need this, something to happen to kind of say, okay, I need to invest in this. And we came up with some really cool ideas of, I was talking about, like, we did like a Brady Bunch kind of Instagram post, and we put 6 of the therapists in with Jackson in the middle, and said, my dog, my therapy dog. Here, tune in Brady Bunch. Here comes the Brady Bunch. We're open for telehealth, or some of us are here for in home, in clinic visits and so forth. We've been giving little, just fun thing. We did May the 4th be with the 4th be with you. We had everybody. We dressed up as Darth Vader and all the other stuff for that kind of little things that we've done in the past year. We've tried to do a resurgence of pictures and things of the staff, and everyone loves my dog doing a down dog, little things like that.
Well, and I think May the 4th be with you. This is a perfect transition to jump over to Laura. Laura, you've got all that going on back there. So can you share a little bit about your clinic? So thank you, Chris. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think that's helpful. Laura, can you kind of give us a little just background on your clinics as the practice administrator, and what your scene looked like pre-COVID, and what you've had to do since this all struck?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
The therapy network is located in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and we are a 32-year-old private practice in the middle of a bunch of large behemoths. We have 8 clinics. We have approximately, well, right now, last count, 92 staff members. So who we have about 1/3 of them are furloughed right now. So that's been interesting. We were doing really well on target for all of our growth goals for this year that we'd set pretty high standard and pretty high goals. And then COVID hit us about March 16th, and we dropped to 50%. We're recovered up to 58% with about, what is my number telling me? 10% is right now at telehealth. But we are seeing more people coming back into the clinic than signing up for telehealth. So we're fingers crossed. Yes.
Well, that's good. That sounds like it's moving in the right direction. What challenges have you had in regards to personnel management? Like, what have been your biggest challenges? I mean, that's a big chunk of people that you have to say, I'm sorry, but we can't do it.
Yes.
What have you come across that's been, the biggest challenge?
Communication and expectation. Making sure that everyone is aware of what is really going on, because they have the news, they have their friends, and then they have us. What are they hearing from different people? And then setting their expectation for what that means for them. The biggest thing that we saw is people were just, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. And that's, we tried to set that with them. You're not going to lose your job. Even if you're furloughed, you're still our employee. Right. You still have seniority. You're still getting, you'll still have your PTO when you come back, and you will come back.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And I think keeping those lines of communication open, and it's hard. I mean, with the furloughed employee, you can't send work emails, that there's some rules that go along with
Right.
that. And I thought it was interesting. Brian had a great idea. I was going to segment you in, Brian, but he had a great idea for how to get around that. And I thought, if you could share, Brian, I would love to share that with the rest of our group.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to be a stalker on the show since Nicole didn't introduce me.
I didn't introduce you. I knew you were going to notice that. You know what? I was saving it for now. And Brian.
So I sat quietly on my hands thinking, she's going to come around to it.
She's going to come around to make a mistake.
So I wanted to ask though, before I get into like my solution on how do we communicate with people in a fair and equitable way, because obviously, as you know, you guys are both Meg Academy clients, you're executive clients of ours, and we truly believe that transparency breeds trust. And being more transparent with your staff, filling the vacuum of information, because in the absence of information, human nature sets in and people often think the worst. So you have to continuously be filling that vacuum with positive thoughts and ideas and being truly transparent with them so that they become settled. Because Laura, you said it, they're listening to social media, they're listening to their friends. You just turn on the news and you're like, oh my gosh, the world is ending, right? So, I mean, not that we're not suffering a horrible event, we are, but these people are close to us and dear to us and they need to hear that repeatedly, right? So, but before I get into that, I just wanted to ask you both, if you could answer for me. I'm seeing that a lot of our clients have suffered a huge downturn in patient weekly volume, the weekly patient volume. And right now I feel like we're coming off the floor. I think a lot of people are trending up. I think numbers are going up. So my question to you, because I think a lot of other listeners are maybe thinking the same thing. What are you seeing in that patient volume trending up? Are you seeing patients of yours returning back into the clinic to resume care or get care? Or are you actually seeing a fair number of new patients to the office, new patients, new evals of people who haven't been to you in the past? I mean, do you see some sort of disproportionate numbers there from what we're used to? I'd like to hear from you guys. Why don't you answer that, Chris?
We've had I have to say is that in all the new patients, we've had probably, I would say about 30% or 40% of a new patient that I've never seen before.
Okay.
There's a lot of factors that influence that too, is because of, a lot of some other clinics are completely closed. So that gives me an opportunity to kind of, get a patient that might've gone to one of my other competitors. Right. But I've had a lot of we have a lot of our return patients, way more our return patients are feeling more comfortable or feeling that they can feel a little bit more comfortable going out and then to us. So I would say at least about 70 of our return patients, maybe 30% brand new.
Fair enough. Laura?
We're seeing about 50% of our former new patient numbers. Okay. So that was kind of surprising to us.
So 50% of the new business coming back to the clinic is actual new public to you, public you haven't had before.
No, we're at 50% of our prior COVID numbers.
Correct.
In new patients. No, in new patients that are coming in.
Gotcha.
So we're evenly split 50-50.
Okay, but of the new business coming in, of the new patients coming in, what percentage of them are actual new people that haven't been to the clinic before, as opposed to people who are returning as new patients?
About 35%.
Like Chris's?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's about standard.
And I think what my message to that is, this is a unique opportunity, if we just stay on that topic for a moment, for those of us who jump out of the gate first, for those of us who jump out of the gate with safety and security and solid policies and procedures to create a safe work environment for our staff, our patients, people in our community who may or may not have even known us before. I think that's the most important thing right now, is to instill this degree of confidence and comfort in the people within our community, that they can come back into our facility and they will be treated in an environment that will be pristine beyond belief, that this is the place. So to that end, and I just wanted to mention that because, Nicole and I, we created this playbook of how to play this out from here. And one of the things we just added to it, which is uploading probably tomorrow, Matthew's putting finishing touches on it, is a template, if you will, that you can pull, and you can actually email this out to your whole patient database, to your whole email list. And I have calculated like the 5 top things that public want to hear about before they take the chance of jumping in a car and going somewhere other than the grocery store, right? Because what we have to do is in some way bridge this patient behavior, bridge this patient mentality between, look, you're willing to get your stuff on and go out to the grocery store or have someone go to the grocery store for you. Somebody's going to the well, whether it be you or a family member is going to the well each and every week. Those of you who have needs, we're just another well. We're no different than the grocery store. As a matter of fact, we're even better because we're going to care for you in such a unique way because we're healthcare professionals. And let me get this into your hands before you come to us. Put your name and logo on it. That's the way I created it. You just put your name, put your logo on it, package it up, change whatever text you want. We made it, customizable, and get it out there because I'm really, really pleading with the listeners here and all of us. It's messaging. Mm-hmm. It's all about messaging. You have to have the message and you got to stand by it, but you have to have the message that you are as concerned as they are about how to get their therapy safely. And you have to get out there and do that. On the flip side of that messaging is communication lines. Both of you said, it's a real struggle to keep these communication lines going. One of the most successful strategies that we have seen is you just get in front of your webcam like you are now, go to QuickTime, click QuickTime, and just shoot yourself a weekly staff meeting, we call it Wednesday updates. And I stand in front of the camera and I do a 10-minute Wednesday update and I talk all about what's going on, what's happening, everything so they never go a week without hearing me. And I just store those Wednesday updates up on YouTube. So for all your furloughed people, there's no law saying they can't go to YouTube. There's nothing. You're not directing them. You're not emailing them. Hey, I don't own YouTube. I just happen to save my stuff up on YouTube. And they can go there all they want and they can keep it up to date on their own free will to go there because it's open to the public, right? It's an open to the public forum. So that's a nice, safe way for you not to be emailing them or breaking the labor laws, but you're just simply storing your weekly updates up on YouTube. And it's a great thing for people to kind of ease their mind, right? So that kind of thing. So those are my 2 communication kind of things. How do we communicate to the public to make that happen? And how do we communicate internally to our staff? Because you're creating a new company culture.
Mm-hmm. We have a question. We asked our Facebook mastermind group to answer or ask what their personnel questions are. And one of the questions on there, and it's kind of along these lines, and I'd love to hear from either you, Chris, or you, Laura, but how should our staff handle the influx of patients after having almost 2 months at about 50% normal schedule? How do we support our staff to readjust as we steadily get busier? They have a shift in these expectations and how we were functioning, and how do we ramp up and, get everyone to be on board with that slow ramp up?
Well, I'm going to say something before Chris answers.
Sure.
Nicole, I think we have to put a little flag, a little bookmark here. A slow ramp up to what?
Back to normal.
Well, what's normal?
That's a good question.
Normal used to be, for a lot of owners, top secrets of the top 10% will tell you, 2 patients an hour, crossing over 15 minutes, doing it professionally, being Medicare compliant, all of that. We've taught that. People have been doing fantastic with that. Is this new society with dividers on the airplanes, 25% of the tables in the restaurants, with all of these new modifications in society, is our new normal to expect our weekly patient volume to go right back to Chris's 680,000 visits a week that he used to do in his clinic? Or is it to come back at 70 to 75%? I'm claiming that I'm finding it very hard for me to believe in many parts of the country that your normal is back to the numbers you were pre-pandemic. I think your new normal might be about 75%. Because how are you going to maintain the distancing and the safety and stuff if that's what we have to do? So I'm just going to leave it at that. And then I'd like to have you guys just process that as to what is your new normal and how do you get your staff, to answer Nicole's question, back to it?
Right. We thought of it as a progressive thing where if we're seeing 300, we normally see 600. We were thinking that if we got to 450, that's kind of, okay, that would be amazing. And if we can get even more, that would be amazing. But we have to think about the capacity, like you were saying, Brian, about how much our clinic can handle. We have, so each clinic is going to be different, at least but in our clinic, we have 9 private treatment rooms. We have an outdoor space where we can put people and spread them out if they're on stim or something like that. So we have a little bit of a unique way, but we figured if we could gradually increase the visits by bringing on if we want to bring on our new therapists, we would have to increase their time with patients at first.
Yep.
So at first, and then we would gradually, depending on the load, and then as start them off start like 2 off part-time, and then part-time at home doing telehealth or whatever. And then seeing how their caseload built up from there, because because all the doctors are doing surgeries, they're going back, we're going to get an influx, and we want to be able to handle it, right. But again, not crowding. So I feel like if you're going to do it correctly, you need to start off with a slow expectation of, or a little amount of hiring the therapist back slowly, and then building the schedule up, but having them on full-time capacity if it does ramp up quickly. Like their time, the time with patients longer. So not 30 minutes, not, maybe 45 each or something like that.
Right.
It's going to require artfulness in the scheduling.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Those front desk people are going to be pushed to really get creative.
So here's the difficulty with us being on, this live Zoom chat with Nicole. We're a syndicated show by now, and so as you know, we have listeners all over the country. So we have listeners that are sitting here going, "Man, my clinic's been closed for 5 weeks. I'm down in Queens or Brooklyn or or Soho, and my clinic's just been closed for 5 weeks. I'm coming back, abiding by the CDC, OSHA work guidelines, which I took OSHA, CDC, World Health Organization, a nationally known consultant, and I created these 3 tip sheets. For those listeners who want that, you go to our website. You can go, Matthew will tell you all about how to get this stuff. We're just giving it away to try and help you. If you're going to follow those guidelines and you're in ground zero, your environment's capacity just went from this to this. But your operating costs, your overhead, and what your pro forma and business strategic plan was based on this. So much like I see restaurants and people going on Fox News and different news networks, and they're talking about, I'm a restaurant owner, and you're saying to me that for the remainder of the year, I'm only going to be able to use 50% of my tables. My whole restaurant, income, expenses, P&L, balance sheet, pro forma, is based on what I designed to do within this space based on this capacity. Now you're telling me I got to do it in half the capacity. Chris, you hit the nail on the head, and I think, Laura, you're wrestling with the same thing. If we bring therapists back who we appropriately paid them a payroll and compensation plan based on this return of production, well, now due to the environmental changes in the policy changes, production is now going to be this. How is this going to, you see my struggle here? I think there's a lot of people listening going, yeah, that's my problem too. How am I going to make ends meet?
The other thing too that's interesting is that our model we spoke about Laura, the scheduling, the creating of the schedule. We kept the schedule, honestly, through this. We've kept the schedule the exact same way that we did pre-pandemic. We just have less therapists here. So the reality is that, honestly, is that they're still seeing that volume, and they're all social distance because our space is so big that nobody's on top of each other. So I'm seeing 300 visits with I have half my staff here because half is on furlough and half is seeing patients. They're seeing the same amount or obviously a little bit less, and now we have this, so we already have social distancing happening. So for me to go back to 1 an hour and then having that many more therapists and support staff with that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now. What it makes sense to me is if I keep the schedule, either I elongate everyone's by 15 minutes so I have more of my staff back, or I gradually, like I talked about, bring them in part-time, starting and build their own schedule accordingly, and then reevaluate.
Yeah. So Chris and I talked about this, and I want to hear your strategy, Laura. So if I could just summarize Chris's strategy, because I think for a lot of people listening, it's a winner. I mean, this is a good strategy. Chris took the scale up approach. He took the scale up approach, and he basically said, I'm going to bring back the staff, maintain my same level of operations with just fewer staff to meet the patient volume I have. As my patient volume grows, I will add additional staff, but I may need to use less techs. I may need to use less support because I have more engagement with the patients. And Chris has something, he's got a little ace in the hole. Chris already conformed most, not all, but now he's looking at most of his are all on a shared risk payment model. And I've been saying this from forever. You have got to move your staff to a shared risk compensation model if this is going to work. If you're throwing out $95,000 plus $11,000 in benefits for people to do 40, 45 visits a week, there's no magic wand that's going to make that happen. I mean, there's nothing's going to bring that to even. So Laura, you're on the East Coast. It's a little bit different over there. And I think people would like to hear, like, what is your strategy? Chris's, shared risk compensation model, number one, works in his favor. Number two, he took the scale up approach. He didn't worry about PPP. He said, whatever it is, I'm scaling up to meet my volume. And I'm just going to focus on bringing my business back to life. Laura, what about you guys on the East Coast?
We did not furlough any of our therapists.
Okay.
We furloughed all support and admin staff that would monetarily be in a better situation if they did that.
Makes sense.
So that worked out well. Elongating their schedules, maximizing the time, and staggering appointment times has allowed us to maintain what we've got and still some social distancing, especially in the times when we couldn't get all the PPP we needed, which was interesting. So that's worked really well for us, and it's helping our patients come back too, because they come in and they see it.
So can you guys, I mean, for those of you listening, can you see that strategy and how successful that is? She literally thought about what's in the best interest of my person. Because if you furlough a licensed therapist making $85,000, they're going to be financially hurt on unemployment. You furlough a $18 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour person who's hourly, they're not. They're going to be financially gaining by doing that. So Laura played the game as what's in the best interest for my group. This is just great. You guys are fantastic. And that was just such a great strategy. And then you just, you're scaling up with your clinicians to meet the demands of your patients as well. You're just not using care extenders. You're just really putting it on your clinicians.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I like that. Perfect. Chris, I have a question for you. Did you find any bit of like resistance to the people that you did furlough to be put on furlough? Was there any animosity between the ones that got chosen to stay?
No, it was, again, I got a great group of people. I really do. And what Troy and I did was, when this all happened, we basically sat everyone down and said, listen, who feels comfortable being here? And if you feel comfortable being here, please let me know. If you do not feel comfortable being here, please let me know that sooner than later. And I promise you, if I can, with as much as I can, we will make sure that you have a job when you come back. So every one of my employees that were self-furloughed. So they all, except for maybe one that we spoke about, and they were on the fence about, when again, like we talk about, Brian, shared risk has its good and bad, because people realize that, I get to a certain level, I can make more money on unemployment now with the supplement, right? So we had some therapists that said that, and I said, you have a perfect, and at that point I had no idea what was happening. So we just said to you guys, okay, fine. So that's basically how all of my staff went on furlough. It was all self-induced. So and then that was the end of it.
No, I think that's good. Sorry, go ahead, Brian. I was going to say, we have a question on the shared risk model, because somebody just wrote in asking, how does that work? Can you give an example of what you mean by shared risk? And you don't have to get specifics.
I'll give an example. I don't want Chris to get too nailed down there, but I do want to just say that, what Chris did was, by sitting down and having that communication with his staff, he let them pick. He let them pick what's best for them, which I think is a wonderful strategy, because you're actually catering to the needs and wants of your staff. So I think that was a wonderful strategy. And then the other thing that he pointed out, which I know is a lot of frustration for a lot of you listeners, in some instances where the income level is lower for the employees at that certain level, you're literally competing against the federal government to keep your staff employed, because the federal government is financially enticing them to stay on unemployment, get their full salary plus $600 a week. That's not your fault. I mean, that's not anybody's fault. You can't hold that against people. Honestly, you just can't. I mean, their spouses might be out of work. I mean, none of us except for Nicole that I know of are trust fund babies. And so we just don't have that kind of thing.
My parents were teachers, just so you know.
We all
definitely not trust fund baby.
We have to work for a living. So I just think we have to be understanding of that, right? So yeah, shared risk model, just basically speaking, and if you really want to learn how to make it work for your office, it takes a custom design for your particular office. Chris has a shared risk model that's working for his, and it sounds like it's been working fairly well. Sounds like he's thinking about tweaking it a little bit to make it even work better, which is exactly what I endorse. I think you have to get a templated share risk compensation model, but you're really going to have to always massage, mold, and shape it so it fits perfectly for your company culture. And in a nutshell, all it is you reduce the salary to a lower base salary, and you have a compensation that is an exchange for what they produce in terms of either efficiency, production, quality, one of the three, all of the three. This is where the customization comes in. I'm a big fan of tying those all together. I know there's a lot of companies that'll sell you a software and they'll only look at maybe clinical efficiency, but I think there's more to it than just that. I think that's a great system to start with, but I would like to see it encompass, successes and outcomes and, patient, I want patients to tell 10 more people to come to our clinic. And I think that reflects on you as a clinician. And there has to be a way to bake that into that shared compensation plan. So if you want to know more specifically for yourself, just reach out to us after this we'll have tons of contact information and we'll help you design one for you.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word exchange, and this next question kind of goes in line with that. How do we avoid resentment from team members for having them work on projects if there are no patients? What if they have expressed that it is a waste of their time and busy work and they should just be able to go home and still get paid?
Let's give
what do you think
of
What do you think of that exchange, guys?
I want to give that to Laura.
Come on, Laura. Go get
Laura
Laura.
gave us her. Laura, you got to share your real title at work. What is your real title?
She who must be blamed. Yes.
Yes.
So
I have the same title.
Exactly. Thank goodness.
That's what we call the personification of out of exchange. It just having everyone just so involved in the clinic, though, and it comes down to who you have on your team and your golf course. Those people that are willing to do whatever it takes to get a job done, because the job for our clinics is not just seeing the patients. Well, that is the main reason, but it's being here for our community. It's being here for each other. It's being here for whatever we need to provide, and that takes doing everything. And in our clinics, we've created a couple of hybrid teams where we've put like our PCRs and our front desk together, and they're doing jobs that they don't normally do.
Yeah.
And they're not only learning each other's jobs, but they're learning
That's a great idea.
they're learning a lot of respect for what the other person does. So I have a feeling we're going to come out of this and we're going to be so much more tightly knit than before with those two teams. It's really going to be an interesting thing to see. So having everyone with the buy-in that we're here about so much more than just one particular job.
I love that you said that, Laura.
That is
well
so
said.
I'm so glad you said that. That is fantastic. When Nicole came on and she moved up through the company, she eventually took over senior developer of all of Meg Academy. It was Nicole who brought to bear, hey, you know what? We need to shoot content and training that professionally enhances the staff. That Brian, you're speaking to the staff member. How can they be a better person and a better professional and get a better degree of product and quality of work done in that particular, whether it be a front desk coordinator or office manager, patient care. And that's exactly what you're saying, is putting people in other people's shoes. One thing's for sure is I go to a lot of these webinars, and whenever people try to act like they have all the answers, I know you don't have half of what you think you have. Nobody has all the answers. That's why this panel discussion is great, because we're just throwing out there what's working, like successful actions that we see working. And I feel if we share enough successful actions, the listeners will be able to pluck out certain successful actions that can plug in their facility and make a bit positive, make a difference for them. So Laura, you're right. When somebody's sitting there and saying something like, you know what, I'm a clinician. I went to DPT school. You have me over here working this project. You have me doing this, home exercise video-based project. That you should be giving that to somebody. That's where they're putting themselves before the best interest of the group. And I think in some instances, in my experience at least, I think in some, probably a majority of the instances from my experience, instead of me getting cynical about it or feeling like put off by that, I usually have to point it out to them that they're actually doing it. And it's been my experience that most of the time, majority of the time, not all, that they're like, wow, I didn't even realize I was coming across like that. I didn't even realize I was really, you're kind of, you're kind of putting your self-interest ahead of the group, when actually the group only succeeds. Actually the individuals of any group only succeed after the group succeeds. So once you do a little bit of nurturing, I think most people can come around to that idea. Wouldn't you say, Nicole, you deal with this all the time?
I would say that, but I also think we were talking earlier and you said something about this is almost like a good self-reflection time for the owner. So, could you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that in terms of like some of these problems that are coming to light, maybe a reflection of how the company has been run up until this point?
Yeah, I think some of this unexpressed resentment that's now being expressed, I think is somewhat that it's kind of been in the undertow within your practice long before COVID-19 hit. And you're just seeing it exacerbated now because we have a crisis situation. It's a little bit of a pressure cooker. So you're kind of getting a little bit of a mirror image of somewhat of how you may or may not have been treating your staff prior to this. You don't want to face that. You don't want to admit that. You don't want to, no one wants to look at themselves as being a little dirty or have a little, scrapes and bruises on it. But you know what? Chris said it. He said it like 10 minutes ago. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to be the best I can. I'm trying to live a better today than yesterday. I swear he just said that. But, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. Look, I have this Post-it note. This is right here on my monitor. I didn't put it here for this show either. I live with this on my computer every single day. And it's a reminder to strive to serve others. Just always strive to do my best to serve others. And if you can start to take that beingness of realizing that you're here to serve others, those people that work with you won't give you that kind of pushback normally. They won't be so id focused. They'll feel that you're working in their best interest on every turn that you can, that it's almost very, very difficult for them to even think about pushing back on you in that way. That's why when I go into these corporate practices, ones that have hundreds of offices, the ones that Laura's competing with, like the big boys in town, and I'm like, I sit with them and they're like, Brian, we really love your stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you don't want to work with me. I said, I'm just saying, I'll show you my stuff and you can make whatever you want, but I don't really want you to hire me. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm not your gig, man. I'm telling you, I'm not your gig, because what I'm going to tell you to do is what you don't want to do. You don't want to treat each office as its own individual island and allow the autonomy and individualism of that island to flourish and prosper in its own unique character and its own unique culture. And you take on the role of being a cruise ship by just coming into port and just giving them supplies to succeed with. And then the franchises go, yeah, we don't want to do that. Yeah, that's not what we want to do. I know that's not what you want to do. You want everyone to put their head down, stay quiet, do what they're told, get it done, walk out the door, and show up Monday doing it again. So you're always so surprised when they keep asking you for more. I'm like, you get what you sow. You reap what you sow. Anyways, I could go off all day on that, but that's kind of what I'm saying as owners. This is a great time to hit the reset button, reflect on yourself. What kind of practice do you want to build? And by all means, don't miss this opportunity to restructure your business.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Okay, so final question from one of our clients is, what happens if our caseload does not go up by the time the PPP runs out? How do I handle my personnel at that point? What do I do?
That depends on if they went on the all-in model or the scale-up model. If you did the Chris scale-up model and the Laura scale-up model, you have no problem. If you did the all-in because you want free money,
well, I think a lot of people have chosen to go the route of, okay, I'm getting this money. I want my staff to be working,
right?
And so they brought them all in, and then now they're in the boat of, okay, I have 5 more weeks and my PPP money runs out. What do I do?
I'm not being sarcastic against them. I'm not being critical here. I'm just saying you made the choice to go all in. So, I'm going to say one thing and shut up and let you guys answer. But I'm just saying this: when the PP check came, that was the time to sit down with an Excel spreadsheet and project out like a pro forma, do a 3-month pro forma and say, am I more likely to be at 70% of full caseload at the end of the 56 days, which is the 8 weeks from the day you got the check? If the answer to that is yes, go all in. Go all in. If you're going to be 70%, 75% or greater, you should have gone all in. If the day you receive the funds, you look forward and you're in one of those ground zero areas, and you're like, there's no good way in God's graces I'm going to be at 70, 75% of where I was, don't go all in. That would be my advice. I'm on the record. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not always right about things, but just with all the people I talk to me, it's the all in or the scale up model. If you don't think you're going to be above that marker, I would have gone scale up. If you thought you're going to be over that marker, I would have gone all in. That's my 2 cents. What do you guys think?
My first gut reaction is that the correct way of doing things would have been taking the money and scaling up, because the reality is that your money, depending on how big your practice is. If my practice, if I thought I was going to get to 450 people in 60 days, and I can't keep the schedule full right now, for the last week and a half, I've had 300 consistently every week. What is going to change in the next week that's going to influx me 150 more visits a week? That's a lot. That's a lot of visits.
A lot.
And then do the math, 150 visits. And if you're going to have every physical therapist, see 10 patients, then I don't think it's going to be the money at the end of the day isn't going to you're not going to reap the benefits of that. So again, I really think that gradually increasing, slowly using the money and stop thinking about getting it forgiven, and think about it as what Troy and I have, is that we're going to gradually do this because I don't want the money to run out, and I'm going to take a risk. And at the end of the 60 days, if I have to pay interest on it, and then in 120 days, I have my 450, and then I can hire 2 more therapists back, I have money to pay them.
Right.
I have, but it's a 1% loan. It's not like I'm getting hammered.
Nothing.
I took this risk opening a business.
Right.
I didn't, and the government is giving it to me to do this. I understand the whole nature of the loan,
Right.
but the reality is that I can't conceivably, I have to think like a Debbie Downer just for 60 days that it's not going to happen. In the worst case scenario, if I had to start from ground zero and get to 300 visits a week, with
Right.
with 5 therapists versus 10 therapists, it doesn't make any sense. Just to
Right.
give the money back. Then I'll just give the money back too.
You can.
Right.
You always have that opportunity to give the money back. Yep.
Yes.
People forget
Absolutely.
that. They forget those 2 things. There's no prepayment penalty. You can give the money back. And number 2, when you say loan, keep in mind, this is the only loan I know of on the planet that is simple interest at 1%.
Yeah.
And there's no payments for 6 months. Well, go find another loan where there's no payments for 6 months, 1%, and it's simple interest. It's not even compounding interest. Anyways, it drives me crazy. But what do you think, Laura?
We stress test constantly. So Robert and I meet every week, and we go over the numbers, and we plan out, well, what if we're at 60%? What if we drop back down? Because we're trying to plan for fall. What's going to happen in the fall? We didn't start here in Virginia doing elective surgeries again until last Friday. So we're okay. So that's going to be an uptick for us. So going forward with that, what's going to happen when the fall hits and it comes back? So every week it's something a little different. And Robert's one of those people, he will plan. He wants it planned out for the year
Right.
so that we can punch in a number into that spreadsheet and see what changes. So really for us, it's just being agile.
And you know, I want to just tip on what Laura just said really quick. Laura said, Robert's got a spreadsheet that has done a cash flow analysis through the end of the year. Our company, my financial division, we've done a cash flow analysis all the way to November. I couldn't go to the end of the year. I just fell short, Laura. You guys just totally beat me to the end of the year. But I figured come October, November, things are going to be what they're going to be. I mean, pretty much I'm thinking whatever is going to be by November 1 was kind of my thought. So for you listeners, you have to do exactly what Laura just suggested. Find a way to methodically calculate out what your cash flow analysis will be to carry you to, in my book, at least to November 1.
Private practice has got a great one.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
They
Good.
do. They
Right
have
on,
a really good one.
on the website?
Yes.
Good.
It's
So
in one
where
of the
would they go?
bulletins. It's in one of the bulletins they sent out.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to find that. Matthew, we're going to find that bulletin. Laura, maybe help us. And we're going to put that on our resource page so you don't even have to hunt around. We'll put that bulletin on our website under the resource tab, and you will find that sheet. We will dig that up. Matthew's probably digging for it right now, and we'll get that up on our website for you just to make it easy.
Yeah. That's good. And I do want to address Tiffany, because Tiffany, I know you are a Meg Academy client, and you typed in that, you want to help your staff. That's why you kept them all on and, use the PPP funds. And I mean, I can totally relate. Brian kept us all on as well, because, for the same reason, you have to take care of your people. So what she's asking is, now what though? I have 5 weeks left.
Yes.
And, how do I handle moving forward? If you have made that choice, it's not that it's the wrong choice. It's another choice to make.
Yeah,
and I understand the human component, because again, that's what he did for us. And our production was down too. So
our production, our billing dropped.
Yeah, billing is a reflection of, how you guys have a down production. Same with our billing
and
side.
Tiffany, and Tiffany, I think Nicole and I would applaud. The heart side of us says, I want to protect my people. I want to protect my people. I want to keep them gainfully employed. I want to keep everybody getting a check. The business side of you has to match into that, though. That has to match together. That has to come in together, because if you make a heartfelt decision, which isn't a wrong decision, it could have lasting negative effects where your business doesn't survive. Then who did you really help? Not saying that's you. I'm not saying that's you. But they're saying 1/3 of all restaurants are not going to make it. They're also saying 5 to 8% of physical therapy clinics, 5 to 8% are not going to make it. And I think that is a responsibility that we have to make the best decision for the long term for our patients, our community, and our staff. So nobody here is insensitive to the employees. I mean, like Nicole said, I kept all of my staff on. I didn't lose a person. I floated it all. Whatever was going to, but I could. Because I could see my way through. I could map my way through. I think a lot of people are making those decisions. And to Laura's point, they haven't found that spreadsheet. They haven't done a cash flow analysis, and they're not quite sure. So now they're looking at, like, what do I do? My PPP money's running out. What do? You're going to have to furlough. You're going to have to furlough. If you've gone all in and you've protected them and you safeguarded them for 60 days, which is great. Nobody's saying that's a bad thing to do. It's great. But your choice at the end when it runs out is to furlough or to supplement with a line of credit or something.
Yeah. And Todd wrote in and said, can't you furlough them? Yes, absolutely. And that's, you're obviously trying to put that off as far as you can and as long as you can. But this is where the communication comes into play. And you have got to talk to your staff. Listen, I am trying to keep you under this umbrella for as long as I can. They have to know that you're all in for them too. So, that hopefully as soon as you ramp back up again, you can bring them back on, and they're just as motivated to, bring the business
and be
back
fiscally responsible. Get your PPP money, get your EIDL advance, get your EIDL funds process, go for HHS, do the things you can. Many, for those of you who don't know, many of your states have state SBA districts and chapters, and many of the states are offering 7A bridge loans. So they'll give you another opportunity there too. So you can get bridge loans as well. And then of course you always have your line of credit. So, you do have additional resources is my point. But then you also have furlough as well. So you're going to have to balance that. You're going to have to balance that.
Yeah, and before we just wrap up, I just want to clarify, because we had someone write in a question, just a point of clarification. I think we said it. You are not allowed to reach out to a furloughed employee. So you cannot email them, you cannot call them, you cannot do any kind of direct reaching out. That's why we had Brian's suggestion of, doing a weekly video, posting it on YouTube. You cannot direct them to go to YouTube, but you have other employees, and, employees talk. So you cannot, direct them, to get there, but you can certainly put it up there, and they have their own free will to go and check that out. It's all about just keeping those lines of communication. And I think people appreciate that, so they know what's happening. Brian always says transparency breeds trust, and we really live and breathe that. So I think people really have appreciated that. At least I know our staff has tremendously. So with that said, I just want to once again thank our panelists. If we can do a once around the room here and just leave with any closing thoughts or any closing suggestions that you might have. If it's not much, that's okay. I just want to give you an opportunity to have any kind of final closing thoughts before we sign off for today. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
You want to start?
My big thing is that let's work our way out of this. Let's get through this and be done with it. We've been through a lot already in my 17 years of being a physical therapist, and I can't see this stopping us. So just take a deep breath and exhale and look forward, because there's so many other things you can do. Just take a deep breath and have someone to talk that through with.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good message.
Laura.
And think of what good is going to come out of this for us. Telehealth.
Yeah.
People in our clinics who are more well-rounded and more understanding of their teammates, their coworkers. And then for business planning going forward, now we have a playbook.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah,
Brian.
Good. Yeah, I think my message to everybody is a combination of both Laura's and Chris's message, to be honest with you. I think this is a perfect opportunity for those of you who are just, all of you listening, compassionate owners, diligent owners, responsible and accountable to those in your community, to the people you employ, that you're going to sit back at this time and you're going to realize that your personnel management is a direct correlation to the demands that are placed on you by the labor demands. Your labor demands are an immediate reaction to your marketplace demands. So you have to start strategizing through sitting down and writing up a new business strategic plan. From there, write a new marketing annual program. From there, write a new pro forma, a cash flow analysis. Like Laura said, it's up on APTA is doing a wonderful job putting things. Go to the APTA site or look to our resource tabs, get that. If you're that type of owner and you're going to put the gloves on and you're going to redesign because look, many of you are going to come to the conclusion that I need 20% of my gross revenue coming in to be from cash-based services. I need 20% of my clinical production, not revenue, production, to be coming from telehealth services. If you're saying that to yourself, then it's time to sit back with a blank piece of paper and rewrite your new strategic business plan for this upcoming year. Right from there, your annual marketing program. Right from there, your cash flow projections. And from there, you've got your roadmap to take you to 2021 successfully. And that's the message I have for all of you. And if any of you that are Mega Academy clients need help with that, you have us. You have Nicole.
Yeah,
Nicole.
Yeah. And I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. That's not a Mega Academy client. We're here just as much for our clients, but also our community. We realize as PTs that we have this tight knit community. So we appreciate that you tune in and pay attention to what we have to say. And we can always welcome feedback and questions. So please feel free, info@megbusiness.com. We're happy to field any questions, and we'll continue to field questions in the Zoom chats to come. So thank you, panelists, once again. I appreciate it. You guys have been so insightful and, just well put in many of the points that you've made. And thank you, Brian. I'm going to acknowledge you because
I was like
I
a stalker
totally
for 15
forgot
minutes.
you. I forgot you in the beginning. How do you forget Brian? He's like the light in the room.
You're so funny. You're so
Dang
funny.
it.
It's just like, I'm like
But
going
thank
to be
you.
fine.
And thank you, Matt, too, and Allie.
Yeah.
She was on standby for any of our telehealth questions. And thank you,
Yeah.
Todd. I appreciate it. for
Yeah,
writing
thank you,
in.
everybody. It's really
Yeah.
great. And it's always good fun. We always get energized
Yeah.
on this stuff. And you guys had such great, tremendous input. I think there's a
Yes.
lot of people that got a lot out of what you shared.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about
Appreciate it.
things. You know, they're thinking about
Yep.
things.
Yeah. All right. And keep up
Good.
the good work. Good luck to all you.
Guys.
All right.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Be
Stay
well.
safe.